It is so good to give thanks together, and I am so thankful for all of you and just for being able to be part of Grace. What an awesome church to be able to pray and worship together. My name is Miss Tandi. I'm on staff here with Grace Kids, and I've got a reminder. You heard Pastor Bill earlier that this is the last Sunday before Advent begins. So kids, ask your parents, did they register yet for their Advent kit? If not, or did they order Jotham's Journey? If they didn't, tell them to do it now. And I would love to see Miss Jill and I are going to be at Grace today until 3 p.m. We would love to see you and give you your kit if you registered. But for today, we are still in 2 Kings, where we are learning about the northern kingdom of Israel. They now have a new king. His name is Joram. He's Ahab's son. And Elisha is now the prophet that speaks for God. But they are now being threatened by another king, a king of Aram, of the country of Aram. And it kind of reminds me of the game Stratego that my kids like to play, where you have two armies at war. And the way that you win is if you come up with the best strategy or the best plan where you can outsmart the other team, you can capture their most powerful soldiers, you avoid the strongholds, and then you capture your enemy's flag. If you do that, you win. Well, the king of Aram, he thinks he has the best strategy to win and to beat the Israelites. His plan, he is going to set up an ambush or a trap for the Israelite army so that when they come by, his army will surprise attack them and they will win. So he sets up his trap. And as they're all set up, God speaks to Elisha, and he tells Elisha exactly where the enemy army is. So Elisha sends message to Joram, the king of Israel, so he knows where they are, and he's able to avoid them, and they get away. Well, when the king of Aram realizes that, he sets up another trap. But again, God tells Elisha exactly where they are. Elisha goes tells the king of Israel, and they avoid him. Well, this happens over and over again. And finally, the king of Aram, well, when we get to verse 11, we find out he is enraged because of this matter. And he called his servants and demanded of them, tell me, which one of you is for the king of Israel? And one of the servants said, well, no one, my lord, the king. Elisha, the prophet of Israel, he tells the king of Israel even the words you're speaking in your bedroom. Okay, so the king said, well, then go and find out where he is, and I will send men to capture him. Well, they find out he is in the small little town of Dothan. So what does he do? He sent horses, chariots, and a massive army there. They went there by night, and they surrounded the city. Well, the next morning, Elisha's servant, the first one up, he goes out, he looks out, he sees that their little town is now surrounded by this huge army, and goes running back to Elisha. It's like, what are we going to do? We're surrounded. And Elisha says, don't be afraid. For those who are with us outnumber those who are with them. He's like, his servant's all confused. He's like, we have no army. What are you talking about? Then Elisha prayed, Lord, please open his eyes and let him see. So the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he saw that the mountains that surrounded their city, those were covered with horses and chariots of fire. They had this huge army with them. So when the Aramean army comes to attack, Elisha just goes right out and prays, Lord, would you make it so that they cannot see? All of a sudden, the army can't see. They don't know where they're going. So Elisha goes up to the commander and says, you know what? You are at the wrong city. Just follow me. I will take you to where you need to go. So he takes this army. They're following him. The guy who they are here to capture, they're following him. He takes them to Samaria, the capital city of Israel, takes them into the center of the city where they are surrounded by the Israelite army, and then he prays, God, would you open their eyes so they could see? They open their eyes. They are now, the Aramean army is now the one that's all surrounded. And so the king of Israel is like, so should we attack and kill them all? And Elisha says, no, give them food and water and send them home. And so the king of Israel prepares a great feast for them and sends them home in peace. Just think of this. God took two armies at war with each other, and there was peace. Because Elisha trusted in the invisible God that he could not see. And so an army received mercy. They did not receive being the punishment they deserved. They were given grace, a feast that they didn't deserve. That is the kind of God we serve. So we may be feeling like we are surrounded, we're locked in our homes, but there is something bigger and greater that God is doing. Can we pray and be asking God, what are you doing? Give me eyes to see, even this week, what you are doing. For our invisible God has shown us who he is in the person of Jesus. And starting next week as we are travel through Advent, we're going to really be focusing on this. In Colossians, this is what we read, that what God has done. He sent Jesus, who is the image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn over all creation. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in Jesus, so that through him he could reconcile everything to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven. He has made peace through his blood shed on the cross. So we can give thanks as the peace of Christ rests on us this week.